What's up, Klimates?
Welcome to Planet of the Klimates. Planet of the Klimates is a community-organized podcast bringing you the latest information and insight into the KlimaDAO ecosystem. Klima is a blockchain protocol backed by carbon credits that gives people the chance to fight climate change as a collective and get rewarded for doing so. Klima sits at the intersection of cryptocurrency, game theory, and the carbon credit markets, so there's no shortage of great stuff for us to talk about. My name is Phaedrus. I'll be your host on this adventure. I'm regularly joined by my good friends and co-hosts Diamond Hands and Reg as we discuss the latest Klima news,
Drop some occasional alpha,
and connect you with the biggest and brightest minds exploring the space. Reg is not able to be with us today, unfortunately, but Diamond Hands is here as well. So, Diamond Hands, we've had so many conversations that give us a chance to look under the hood of Klima. And then, now for me, anyways, this is a chance to look under the hood of KlimaDAO Infinity because DOVU is going to be a critical partner for that. But enough from us. I'm sure you want to hear from DOVU themselves. So let's just cut right to it. Right. So DOVU founder and CEO Irfon Watkins is our guest on this episode of Planet of the Klimates. If you've been paying attention to the news across the Klimaverse, you might have heard that KlimaDAO Infinity has launched recently, and DOVU are one of our key launch partners. We hope this conversation can not only shed some light on what that partnership means for Klimates and others looking to step up their action on climate change with Klima, but also learn more about DOVU and what might be around the corner for them too. So, thank you so much for taking the time to join us, Irfan. I know many of our listeners will be excited to hear from you as a new KlimaDAO Infinity partner, but let's back things up maybe by you telling us a little bit about yourself and your motivation for getting into carbon markets and perhaps, some of the early origins of DOVU.
Yeah, and thanks for inviting me. And hi, everyone, and looking forward to this. Yeah, so I'm Irfon Watkins, and I'll give you a little sort of backstory on myself, really. So I'm from a little country called Wales. I grew up on a farm, a sheep farm, up in the hills in the middle of Wales. So I've always had an interest in farming and regenerative agriculture. It's a traditional family farm, not intensive, and it's always hard to sort of to make a living on a traditional sort of family farm when you're not doing intensive farming, so there's only you're very restricted in terms of what it is that you can sort of do. So one thing that always fascinated me is, like, how can you reward good behavior? How do you how can we sort of put in place systems where things like not putting intensive sort of chemicals on land, not over farming, as I say, doing the right thing can be rewarded. So that's always been in the back of my mind. So I left my farm, moved up to London, sort of started a career in technology, and set up a number of companies. Some succeeded, some didn't. There's a whole sort of history there. I think when you're a farmer, you're an entrepreneur, and that entrepreneur sort of blood just stays within you, really. And also, when you grow up on a small farm in Wales, it's your older brother or older sister that runs it, and you have to leave and do something else. So that isn't a choice. So you've got that entrepreneur within you. You've got to sort of practice it somewhere. You can't do it on the sort of family farm. So I did it in technology, and so that, as I say, I won't bore everybody with a whole long, laborious process, but it ended up really me starting DOVU with Christina Miliver, and the sort of co-founder. We started it in 2016, 17, actually, and that's working with. I had a relationship with the car company Jaguar Land Rover, and they were really interested in looking at new ways that they could incentivize and monetize data and reward sort of users who drive connected vehicles for doing the right thing. So it's a sort of tenuous link back to sort of carbon, but there is a sort of method in the madness there. So anyway, we had a conversation. They said, look, if you set up a company, we'll back you. So I set up a company, and we started to look at blockchain and tiny little micro payments, tokenizing micro payments, basically, to reward behavior. And we did that for a couple of years, really, with DOVU. That's how DOVU started. And really, the more I looked at sort of the mobility space, the connected vehicle space, the electric sort of aspect of it, and a more carbon way of carbon sort of efficient way of moving around the planet, what I was really sort of leading towards, probably subconsciously, was actually the carbon aspect of it rather than the rewarding good behavior. It was sort of, and then that got me thinking, okay, well, great, we've built a ledger, we've built a sort of a token model. We just need to apply it, not to the driver of the vehicle, but in a pointed in a different direction. Something that's really going to fire me up. Because to be brutally honest, I didn't really care that much about mobility. I didn't really care that much about cars. And I think when you're an entrepreneur, you've got to wake up in the morning with a fire in your belly, because if you don't, then what are you doing it for? What, just to make some cash? That's just not good enough reason. So I didn't have the fire in the belly really for that sort of connected car sort of aspect of it. So we went and sort of pivoted the business, and we took a look really at sort of how can we reward farmers for good behavior, and then we started to look at the whole sort of the carbon model really, and that sort of really fired me up and fired the team up. And then suddenly we had a mission and a vision and a sort of and something that we could wake up, every morning and feel passionate about.
Wow, that's quite the journey there from that small Welsh farm to partnering with Jaguar Land Rover to that full circle coming back to the farming and carbon credits there.
Wow. Yeah, that's a really long journey from where you were started to where you are today. I think now that you look back, it's been quite a journey for you, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but it seems obvious, when you look back, it seems like, well, it was destined to be there, really. I mean, it's sort of, I'm back on the farm again, basically.
Of sorts, yeah, you're right. Yeah. So my question was, like, I think you did share a little bit about the history of DOVU, but I also like to find out a bit more, right? Just to dive a little bit deeper about DOVU. It's like, from what I understand, DOVU tokenizes high quality carbon credits, right? So what kind of projects does it qualify as a high quality carbon credit?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, it's probably better answered if I go back a little bit. So when we took a look at the carbon credit marketplace, one of the things that I couldn't work out, just to be clear here, we're not preaching to everybody about how you should do things or how you shouldn't do things. But when I took a look at the voluntary carbon credit market, I couldn't get clarity as to where my money was being spent. So if I was buying a credit, nobody could tell me exactly where that dollar ended up, and more importantly, what was that carbon relating to? Did it have additionality? Was it sequestering carbon from somewhere? Did it prevent carbon going into the environment? Is it short term? Was it long term? And also, did I really have confidence, that carbon wasn't double spent or wasn't sort of, there's a whole range of things. So I started looking at it and going, wow, if all I cared about was getting a certificate, then I could get a certificate. That's great. I'll put it up on the wall, and that's brilliant. It's a bit like being a Microsoft certified professional. It's sort of, I can buy one of those online. But we wanted, so therefore I thought, well, that's just not good enough, and that's not really what blockchain is for. We can do a lot better. So when we talk about quality, what we're not saying is, look, we're the arbiters of quality here. We're the ones saying this is a quality project, this isn't one. For me, a quality project is one that has disclosure on the methodology, that has transparency on the process, that is using and displaying whatever technology or science is used to count the carbon, and basically is using a auditable chain that can actually count the carbon from the purchase through to the redemption, and you have confidence in it. So a quality carbon project for DOVU is one where the buyer buys with confidence. And the reason why I say that's important is because what I'm seeing is, and what we're seeing is, a potential toxic debt here, a toxic pool of carbon credits that have happened in some markets, that corporations are making claims that they're carbon neutral, but what they've actually purchased, if somebody actually did an audit of it, could cause PR problems for them further down the line when they actually realize what they've actually purchased. So we want to make sure that the combination of partners that we work with, like yourselves, and what we do gives confidence in the marketplace for the future. So that actually, and that's what I mean by quality. A quality offset is something that gives confidence.
So it's less about the project itself and more about, that process and that transparency that's built in.
Yeah, because it's sort of, look, if we wait for all the scientists to agree on what counts as a quality project, nothing would ever happen. Every methodology is different. Every sort of element of how you count carbon and when it enters the environment and when it's sequestered and everything else, you'll have competing discussions and arguments going on for years. So what needs to happen is that the methodologies need to be exposed and just need to be transparent so that the buyer can make a choice. And that choice could be on the amount of carbon that's been sequestered, but also, hey, we like the biodiversity element of this. We like the additionality element of this. We like the community element of this as well. So that actually you can make an informed decision on something which is not just as sort of binary is the exact amount of carbon that's been sequestered, because that's for the best will in the world, that's always going to be debatable.
You're right. And this is something that I really find very fascinating, interesting in that sense, because currently we have like MCO2, we have BCT, we have MBO, UBO. They are usually classified, or they are always like determined by like 1 token equals to 1 carbon ton. But for your case, for DOVU coins, or rather DOVU tokens, it's 1 kg carbon. Just curious, like why is it there's this difference?
Because I think that if you're going to create offset by design infrastructure, which sort of really fascinates us, it's definitely part of our vision, and working with partners, I think we can achieve that as well. What you need to be doing is building in smaller components. So if, tiny transactions, based within a wallet, for example, you're not going to be offsetting tons, you're going to be offsetting parts of tons. And a kilogram is too large a measurement as well in times. So like I say, it's easy to go from a kilogram to a ton and from a ton to somewhere else, but it's just where we've started. There's no really massive rhyme or reason. You can break every unit down into smaller units, but I think it just sets out our mission that actually micropayments are a key part of this. And I think that's why we've gone sort of multi-chain as well in terms of our approach, working with Hedera and Polygon and Ethereum and so on. We can come on to that. But the idea is really that we're trying to find the most efficient and smallest unit of value that we can find, so that actually when you plug in an API into your decentralized app or into your service, then the offset can just happen dynamically.
I see. So essentially, the reason why it's more on a smaller basis, it's more fluid in the sense. That's what I'm getting it. It's because carbon ton. It's a big amount. So the idea is to make it fractionalize it into smaller amounts, so it's easy for transactions to happen, easy for retail, easy for people to offset with like simple transactions.
Yeah, it's a psychological thing, isn't it? It's a sort of, it stops some people buying Bitcoin because they can't afford sort of, $30,000 or whatever. And they just haven't figured out that they can do smaller amounts. Or, I think it's a psychological aspect of it, but it's which I think is important. And we've got a tool called Carbon Calculator, and that plugs into your MetaMask wallet. And from there, we can sort of take a look at the amount of carbon that you've used, or you can do it. It's a nice little game to play. At the moment, you can take a look at and see how much carbon you've used to do your trading and your sort of transactions and sort of break.
Yeah, that's so cool, because I think a lot of us are used to like seeing those carbon footprint calculators where it's just behavioral things and lifestyle stuff. But this is like directly, it's a Web3 footprint calculator, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And we also linked it in. We've got another carbon market cap as well, which is we're taking sort of real-time views on Ethereum projects at the moment. So you can type in your favorite Ethereum ERC20 project and you can see their debt. from the full lifetime of when they started to what they've been doing over the last 7 days. And again, that may inform your choice as to what project you want to support or not support. So at the moment, these are sort of educational tools, a bit of fun, but our plan for what we're going to do with them will change as we sort of move our token model. I can't talk too much about it, but I mean, there might be some fairly obvious things that you can do if you know how many tokens that you've spent or need in order to offset your carbon. Then there may be some sort of obvious sort of next steps to get those tokens.
Oh, gotcha. And then you've also got that marketplace, like speaking of transparency there too. I think that's a novel thing in the carbon markets as well too, where people can look and actually see a face and see photos about the actual projects that you're offering tonnage or kilogrammage from, right?
Yeah, and I think that's and we're building tools to make this easy for farmers to upload their all of their sort of data, whether that's images of the farms themselves or the sort of projects. And I think it does. It's great when you can see the sort of. There's a good one from Bulgaria where the farmers, the husband and wife are holding hands in front of a field.
Yeah. There's a cute couple. Yeah, it's a really cute couple standing in front of the field. It's like it feels very funny. It feels like the husband was like, look, wife, hey, we need to take a photo. Let's just stand in front of the camera and take a photo. It just looks so damn fun.
It does, yeah. No, it's like, well, I don't think they're not sort of used to the Instagram life. That's for sure. It is a very authentic one, as opposed to sort of beautiful people jumping through fields of corn. Not that they're not beautiful people, of course, but I think it's that authenticity. But I mean, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. We wanted to build something where you could trace that. If you're going to spend $1, you know where that dollar's going, and that if you're buying off that project, it's going to that couple. That's the reality of it. And again, it's part of the community aspect of it as well. So rolling out going forward, why wouldn't a local Bulgarian company that wanted to offset buy local? Why wouldn't they want to purchase from a local farmer? And I think that's another element as well, where we can start to market the sort of the community element of the marketplace, as opposed to a sort of an anonymous spreadsheet sort of carbon unit. And again, going from a corporate perspective, it enables them to sort of build their story so that they can sort of point to exactly when they talk about being carbon neutral or carbon positive, they can point to the project, and the projects that they've spent money on to become that.
I see. So I was looking through the marketplace, and I realized that it seems to me, please correct me if I'm wrong, it seems to me you deal primarily in nature-based carbon offsets.
Yeah.
Is that the object? Is that the goal of DOVU?
It is right now. I mean, the goal of DOVU really is to create a trusted, transparent, fully auditable, sort of ledger, really. I think that the focus on the soil and regenerative agriculture is one that, because it's so very poorly served right now, and it's a difficult nut to crack. It's a difficult problem to crack on scale, but if you can get it done, it's going to have one of the biggest impacts, because it's about feeding us. It's about the environment that we live in. It's about the plants and the insects, the biodiversity, because the healthier the soil, the more carbon is sequestered. The healthier the soil, the better the food. The healthier the soil, the more biodiversity that's there. So actually, if we can crack it, it's really interesting, and it's going to be really important to us. But then if you take it into other countries and other sort of ecosystems, and you look at, I don't know, programs like the World Food Program and the amount of small farmers that are involved in that, for example, and as part of the United Nations, you've got small farms, maybe 2 hectares in size, in different parts of the world. And if you can offer them a new crop, this carbon crop, as a source of income, and then you're using technologies like satellites and sort of other IoT stuff as a sort of measurement at scale, then suddenly you've got something on scale that is very, very powerful. as a sort of not only a way of sequestering carbon and selling carbon, but also a way of providing an income to families for in poor environments that are farming in a non-intensive way. So it's sort of, we as you know, without sort of being too sort of political about it, what we have is, Western world's heavily polluting, and the sort of developing countries sort of being punished really as a result of what's going on, And I think if we can start to pay sort of these developing countries and their farmers for their farming practices, which are benefiting the sort of all of us by sequestering carbon and farming in a regenerative sort of non-intensive way, then suddenly we can have a more positive impact.
Yeah, no, that's great. So you're clearly, UK based, but your marketplace and your scope and your reach is really global.
Yeah, and our pipeline. I mean, the marketplace right now it's our little experiment, but our pipeline. I mean, we're targeting hundreds of thousands of tons of carbon for this year, and we've got a pipeline to achieve that. This isn't a small local enterprise.
No, that's great. And I think just to turn the page perhaps on, the next chapter of DOVU, or like this chapter that we've started together here, when did you first hear of Klima, and how did the Klima Infinity partnership that we're kind of announcing or discussing, how did that materialize?
Well, I always keep an outlook, for everything that's sort of going on as much as you can. There's a lot happening in the space, as you know. And I think it probably started from Olympus, really. It started from the sort of model, I suppose, as opposed to the project itself. And then that led me into sort of Klima, and then I became, absolutely fascinated what you guys are doing, backed it myself, put some cash in, and totally supported you guys from the beginning, really. Not as part of the Discord, and because obviously I had our own business to run, so I didn't really have the time to get involved as such. But I think the idea of, we were focused on the supply side and building the sort of authentication, building the platform to give that sort of trust. We didn't really focus much on the demand side. And what I was fascinated about with what you guys were doing was the demand aspect of it. And always in the back of my mind, I was thinking, well, at some point, the supply side will be diversified. And that's where we can have a chat with Klimates when they're ready to diversify the supply side, because the demand side is what you're doing is nothing. We're never going to be doing that. And also, we're in a part of the sort of crypto token sort of a blockchain economy where this isn't a one company wins. This is a sort of we can only achieve our goals collaboratively. And it's this sort of DAO mentality that sort of really excites me. This idea that actually, look, this isn't about us treading on toes as different projects. This is about us looking to see how collectively we can play to our strengths to deliver something that's really exciting and scales and is of value to the whole world. And I think, and that was my intention, when I sort of reached out and when we started the conversation, was to see, how can we collaborate? Because because as I say, 2 and 2 equals 5 in this environment. Not it isn't a winner wins all.
Yeah, definitely appreciate that collaborative mindset and that alignment on values there too.
So I think the thing, or rather most of the listeners here will be wondering, right? You're now currently one of our Klima Infinity partners, and you focus on footprint and analytics side of things. So maybe a bit of an explainer, like what does this whole partnership entails and what does it mean to us?
I think that this is the first step in a open palm sort of collaborative discussion around how things can work out, because we're all figuring things out right now, and anybody who says that they're not is not being genuine. We're all figuring it out, and it's about figuring it out together. So from our side of it, like I say, we have this system that we're building. So and we've built within the sort of marketplace. So I suppose we're slightly different than some of the other partners that would join the sort of program. So we've got the DLT version of our trust, sort of platform is on Hedera, and we use Hedera because it's a very carbon efficient sort of platform, and the Interwork Alliance program and philosophy that we work with enables us to create this trusted system that means that we can't, as a platform, get involved in any sort of manipulation of data. It's sort of it's a very well sort of structured sort of process, and we can do it at scale, and we can do micropayments. So that works really well. However, we came from an ERC20 sort of background. That's where DOVU started and still is. And we have good relationship with Polygon and Matic. We have the tokens available on BSC as well. So we've always had this sort of multi sort of chained approach. So the way that I see it, and I think we see it going forward, is from a demand perspective, we're agnostic. Plugging into sort of bonds or plugging into pairs and pools to sort of where we can sort of have Klima and DOVU tokens, side by side. I think that's totally part of our strategy, and that's not sort of chain specific. So again, we can do that in Polygon, we can do that in whatever sort of platform that we choose to use in the future.
Brilliant. So I mean, I'm just looking again at your website and the different solutions that you've got. We've talked about a few of those already with the marketplace and all that. But for Klima Infinity, where you could plug in as well too, I assume it sounds like through your carbon calculator, the carbon market cap, other tools like that too, that could be running some of the back end stuff for our Klima Infinity dashboard that we're going to offer our clients.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that it's about opening them up and absolutely plugging them in to help your community sort of get better understanding of their debt, their carbon debt, basically, and then sort of offering solutions where they can sort of deal with that as quickly as possible. So yeah, I mean, we'll continue to build tools. We'll continue to sort of create tools to, as I said earlier, to enable offset by design to happen, to enable micro payments of carbon based on transactions, whether that's in a wallet, within an exchange, within a DApp. That's really a key direction for us.
Yeah, that's, I mean, I'm just thinking back again to your original story that you're telling us there too. So again, that's quite the journey and quite the way for things to scale up from that small Welsh farm to connected vehicles with Jaguar Land Rover to, helping these companies and helping people understand how they're offsetting and measuring their footprint and measuring their climate action with us at Klima here.
Yeah, and I think it's that sort of, I suppose it's the history of DOVU and the connected vehicles that sort of led us through to these sort of micropayments, because when you're rewarding tiny bits of data from millions of connected vehicles happening in real time, so you've got these sort of micro transactions happen. So these threads sort of come together, into where we are now from our history, as well as our passion.
That's brilliant for sure. Yeah, building upon your past strengths, whether it's little pivots or by design down the road. I think it's great to be working with you there.
Yeah, totally. It's really exciting to see that from a small farm now it's global farms in a way.
Yeah,
right.
It is very exciting, and I think as I say, when you wake up in the morning and you think, well, actually, this is about more than shilling a token or making money or anything else, it becomes a sort of a powerful reason to sort of get up there in the morning.
Yeah, speaking of shilling, right? This is something that I would always love to ask. Like, do you have any information for our listeners on your potential partners they're going to bring on DOVU, or any future developments of DOVU that you would love to share with the listeners here?
I mean, I've given some sort of indication on the pipeline on the supply side, and one thing that is very clear about the space that we're in is that there isn't enough supply for the demand. And what I'm talking about is demand where people really feel comfortable about what it is that they're buying. There's a great quote from Microsoft, who've been pretty strong on sort of leading in this space, really, in terms of buying sort of carbon offsets, and certainly on the regenerative agriculture side of it. They claim that there just aren't enough offsets in the world for them, let alone any other corporate. So, this I think the shilling aspect of it is, classic supply and demand. So, as DOVU and the DOVU token is instrumental and sort of absolutely core to our sort of project strategy. When we talk about bringing in hundreds of thousands of tons of carbon, and then we talk about the demand side of it, there just isn't enough supply for the demand that's out there. It pretty gives a good impression as to the direction of travel, I think, for a token with finite supply, and I think that's where, I suppose that's probably the biggest difference between Klima and DOVU, is that we have a pre-mined token, the finite supply. So how does those token economics work? But we're focused primarily on building a very good scalable platform, and the DOVU token is absolutely instrumental to it. And we're a bit unlike a lot of the companies that did token events back in 2017 and 18. We didn't really promote and push our token. We wanted to focus on building something of value. And then we always felt that the token itself then would be valuable once we've done that.
Yeah. So let's, we've kind of talked about DOVU for a while. We've talked about a lot of stuff going on there, but you did talk about the token and the tokenomics. Could you maybe, take a little bit of a moment to dive into that a bit more?
Yeah. So we just released a blog. Well, Matt did, who's our CTO, and talking sort of more about that. And yeah, so what can I say about it, really? I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the blog. It's quite a detailed sort of diagram, really, in terms of the potential token economics that we're looking to launch. I mean, we've got things such as single-sided staking that we're launching very, very soon. We're launching bridges that go from, at the moment, from Ethereum into Hedera. So there are a lot of things that are sort of coming up. But I think the best thing to do is to read the blog, to be honest, and take a look at the diagram.
Oh, we'll definitely, we'll be sure to link that up in our show notes here too. We've got DOVU staking beta phase 1, it looks like, and then a little bit of a deeper dive on bridges with Hashport.
Yeah, exactly. So it goes back to this sort of multi-chain sort of mentality, really, and this idea that I'd love to be in a position where one day I can just sort of, my wallet is just atomic swapping basically between all these different tokens and different chains, depending on the environment that I'm in. That's always been the sort of dream. And from our perspective, that's where we are aiming to be. But our role in it, as I say, is to be that offsetting engine as well, that sort of that facilitates that. And I think that the bridge, the bridge to Hedera sounds like an old film.
Yeah, it does.
And the single-sided staking, I think, is all interesting. But I think these are all experiments. One of the things, I'm also a partner at a venture capital company called Outlier Ventures, and we invest in a lot of early stage companies, about 150 last year, but 200 or so this year. Done a lot of work around token economics and token modeling that business has, and the metasphere and so on. So I'm always really interested in the token aspect of it, but token models, you guys will know this, they're just a massive experiment, and you have to be open sort of to evolve. And so when we do single-sided staking and we do other sort of things that we're putting in place, they are a huge experiment to see what works and what doesn't work. And like, again, anybody who says, look, we figured it all out from a token economic perspective, I think is probably not being genuine.
Oh, yes, 100% agree there. And I think it's great that entrepreneurial mindset, or that spirit of, learning as you're doing, iterate and evolve and grow along the way there.
But it's that transparency bit. It's doing it with open palms to say, hey, this is where we're at, and then you as I think then the audience or the consumer, the user, they can choose to be on that journey with you or not. But at least it's sort of you're doing it with an open palm, and that's definitely the philosophy of DOVU. And I like that about Klima as well, about the sort of, I like the that transparency and sort of openness in the Discord, and I think that's where the missions align.
Yes, definitely. So given that transparency and that, openness and clarity about, that we're learning as we're going here, this next question might be, a little bit contrived or a little bit of a challenge for you, but, you know, understanding that the path will evolve as you go, where do you see things perhaps in 2033? A longer term vision for DOVU, and where do you see this partnership with Klima fitting in the long run?
I think I think that if we can collectively uh, keep, or no, not keep, even grow trust in this voluntary carbon environment that we're building and this sort of setup that we're building, my view is that it'll just become just an inbuilt process in everything that we do with our lives. It'll just be, it'll be, the sort of, I don't like to use the word tax, but it'll be the sort of price that you pay for every single transaction in life, and it'll just be built in. And I think we have an opportunity to be the sort of at the heart of that. I'm a very optimistic sort of individual. I mean, I think probably goes part and part with being an entrepreneur. um, but and I think that the collaborations between Klima and DOVU can help achieve this sort of vision, I think, of having a system that is just at the heart of every sort of carbon transaction, and a carbon transaction is going to be inbuilt into every other transaction. And and I think it's not going to be, and there'll be projects that are just and technologies, of course, that we haven't even thought about yet, or that'll be coming here on scale. But it'll still come down to one thing: supply and demand, measurement, and trust. So you can ladle any technology in the future, you can sort of invent anything, you can sort of launch anything, but if it hasn't got that sort of scale, it hasn't got the sort of trust, and it hasn't got the simplicity of use, then it's just not going to deliver what we need it to deliver. So I think if we focus on scale, simplicity of use, using technology to build it into APIs, SDKs, or everything that we can possibly do to make it simple to use on a very tiny micro level, I think that the combination of sort of Klima and DOVU working together can accelerate that.
That's brilliant. I really appreciate that perspective from the micro to the macro there too. Yes, 100%. Yeah. I think that kind of covers it for what we had our questions. Is there anything else that you were hoping that we would have asked, or that you really would like our listeners to hear about the partnership or about DOVU in general?
No, I think I've probably covered a lot of stuff. I've gone off on tangents as I tend to do. It's I'm comfortable with everything that we've covered, and hopefully there'll be lots of other opportunities to cover things, as we go forward.
Excellent. Definitely 100% would look forward to a future conversation with you about how this partnership grows and evolves with Klima Infinity and
Brilliant.
beyond. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So definitely, thanks so
No,
much for your
thanks.
time then, Irvin.
Yep.
And we'll be in touch again soon. And we're not
Yep.
100% sure on the launch date for this particular episode too, but we'll keep you posted and definitely give you a heads up when it's
No
ready to
problem.
go.
And thanks for having me. Cheers, guys.
Yeah, cheers. Likewise.
Right. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, wow, what a great conversation. It was so great to meet Irvin and learn more about the backstory and mission vision of DOVU. So yeah, I don't know about you, Diamond Hands, but I really enjoyed that conversation. And when Irvin was talking about having that fire in his belly, needing to believe in that mission, vision, and values when he gets up in the morning, beyond just making money, I think that really just resonated. And I thought it was so cool that he's an early climate, an early investor in our Klima as well too. So yeah, did anything really resonate with you?
Yep. So for me itself, it's really interesting to see how he turned his experience from running a farm when he was
Yes.
in Wales, and now doing it globally and really helping farmers itself, find different source of revenue, especially those from a more less off countries or less off farmers, to give them a different source of income. And I think that's really, really good. Like, it's not just about money making at the end of the day. It's just really helping, like, farm in his for him, it's to help farmers grow, financially, at the same time fight climate change. So two birds in one stone. Who doesn't love that, right?
Yes, yes, and the challenge that he was, talking about, that transparency that's built right in with their marketplace there. I think that's just huge, because I know that's been an issue or sometimes a criticism of carbon markets as well too, is that you don't always know exactly what it is that you're
Yep.
getting.
We're buying.
And
Yeah.
and so with DOVU and with their protocol, that's very clear. And even though they've got that global marketplace, he was reinforcing that many times people would prefer to know they're buying a local credit or supporting a local farm.
Yeah, exactly. So this is something really interesting. And I think the funniest thing was that cute couple that was on the website. It was like, it was very cute, to see that happening. And if you look at the marketplace, right, and you were to read up on the write-ups on those projects, it's really interesting to have you not just know where the credits are from, but you also do get a bit of background on, like, where the farms are, how do they got the farm, what's the history of the place. So it's kind of fun and nice to know that, okay, I'm buying credits from this particular farm and I'm supporting this particular family, and there's heritage to it. So I thought there was something really different from the usual carbon credits that we are trading right now, like MCO2 or VCT itself.
Yeah, and I think that photo you talked about, it's pretty cute. It's funny. It just occurs to me, it kind of feels like that there's a classic painting, American Gothic, with the husband and wife with a little pitchfork.
Yeah,
It's
I remember that.
feels like the American Gothic for Web3, maybe. It's the new
the new meme, the new meme for carbon credits or carbon markets. Yeah,
exactly. And then even that, we're not even touching on, again, that how DOVU is going to be powering Klima Infinity with that footprint calculator and helping all of our other partners understand, document, and be clear about how they're offsetting.
Yeah.
So,
end of the day, what I want to say is, this is just the beginning. That's why it's Klima Infinity and beyond.
Exactly. So that was just an inspiring conversation with Irfon, and hopefully you enjoyed that, as our listeners here too. Yeah, really happy and pumped up about Klima Infinity. But yeah, for everything Klima, make sure you're hitting up KlimaDAO.finance. Our shiny new website is there for you now too, where you can stake, bond, and of course, as always, check out the link for the Klima Discord community. Because we're a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, we're very much community driven, just like this podcast. So join us, and you're going to find a great group of Klimates and plenty of opportunities to contribute and be as active of a Klimate as you would like to be. So we really hope you enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much. We're looking forward to saying hello once again on the very next Planet of the Klimates.
Peace.